Hogwarts Legacy, is it worth that $70 price tag? Does it warrant the hype and the insane amount of record breaking that this game has done? Well, today I want to discuss exactly that. I want to briefly cover the gameplay, how it feels, the open world, the combat, and then dive into a bit of the story and what I think about that, because I actually have quite a few mixed thoughts about the story that we got. But ultimately, the story in this game is extra important because it's the world, right? Harry Potter, the universe that we're in with Hogwarts and some of the characters and even the ancestors of some of the characters, such as Ron Weasley, and then of course the headmaster, Professor Weasley, so it all relates in some way or other and it's all canon. However, do consider leaving a like on today's video, it would be very much appreciated if you could, and if you want to see more content like this and generally story explain videos and other videos relating to these video games that I personally really love doing and story and lore and stuff like that, then do consider subscribing to the channel as well, very much appreciated. But check the timestamps below and let's dive straight in. Hogwarts Legacy's gameplay from an exploration perspective is absolutely fantastic, and I don't think there's a game out there really right now that can do this to the extent that Hogwarts Legacy can offer you. The game doesn't make you follow a linear path in free roam either, which I really like. You don't need to particularly follow a pathway to one side of the map to the other like you do in God of War, for example. So in God of War, if I went to one of the realms, I would have to follow like a pathway to go through that realm and things will be blocked off and stuff like that. And in this game, you don't get any of that. You can literally fly where you want, do what you want, run where you want, walk where you want. You can do absolutely anything in this game in any order that you want to. And it's a really refreshing thing to be able to do that and just not follow that linear path. What I love about this game especially though is the amount of freedom you get. You can spend 22 hours of smashing out the story in the campaign like I personally did, and then you can spend 40 hours tackling all the side quests and just exploring the worlds, the caves, all the collectibles throughout as well, upgrading your gear and different things like that as well. I think that Avalanche have done an exceptional job in making this game feel as though you're a part of the universe itself. It's just a brilliantly crafted game. Look, the one thing that I hate in some of these games, and I've got a good example to show you in a moment, is the game doesn't feel alive. You don't feel like you're a part of that universe. You kind of feel like you are there and you're trying to progress a story in a world that doesn't really feel alive. Hogwarts Legacy is the exact opposite of this, and it's so damn good. There are no invisible walls really, only in some areas where you can't fly into on your broomstick, but the majority of the time you can walk wherever you want to. You can fly mostly wherever you want to. You can fly all around the Hogwarts castle. You can do almost anything you like on a broomstick, a hippogriff, whatever it might be. And it's so impactful to the player, and it was especially to me too. And oh my god, Hogwarts is stunning. The castle from the outside as you fly past it on your broomstick to the detail inside the castle as well. You can tell that this was crafted to perfection, and the developers must have took the majority of their time creating this game on crafting this castle, mocapping it, doing whatever they need to do to really get the vision from those movies that we like and then putting them into this game. They have done an exceptional job with it, and I think it's an artistic masterpiece. As I mentioned earlier, what you want with a place like this is to feel alive. You don't want to walk into this castle and just have static pictures all over the place. You want to have the floating candles. You want to have the students walking around the school as they're going to class or they're up to no good, casting spells on one another. You want these things to happen in a place like Hogwarts, and that is exactly what you get. If this castle didn't have those pictures, it didn't have these floating candles, or the students walking around and goofing around and doing their own thing, or the music playing, the paintings talking to you, the knights messing with one another, you just wouldn't have that impactful experience in thinking that you're in a magical place like Hogwarts. And Avalanche nail it. Let's take a game like Forspoken for an example here. It's not a very detailed game in terms of its environments and things like that. Look at this place that you can see on screen now. This is a place that's very important to the story of Forspoken, and it's the one of the only surviving places within Athia where all of these people have gone to. Comparing this to Hogwarts in terms of how alive Hogwarts feels, that you can tell that it's being lived in. You can tell there's people all around there. There's people walking around doing their own things. There's moving parts all over the place. If you go outside of the castle, you can see moss on top of the castle. You can see the castle is old. In terms of Forspoken, this doesn't look old. It looks too clean. There's nothing really going on. The people are really dull, really boring. They don't really have their many things to do. You don't feel like you're in a world which is being lived in by people. You feel like you're alone, essentially, and it's not what you want in a game like that, especially in Forspoken's case, where it's the final place in Athia, or this mythical world, where people have got to go to and live in. You'd expect it to be a bit more lived in. You expect there to be cracks here and there, moss growing on the walls, or whatever, but you don't have that. And this is what I'm trying to explain to you. At no point does Hogwarts feel dull. I can enter different locations in interesting and unique ways, like literally tickling the pear to get into the kitchen. The castle is an artistic masterpiece, and the developers should be extremely proud of themselves for what they've created here. However, one thing I found a little irritating, to be honest, and I think this might have been just me running through the campaign fairly quickly to get my video out, but you have to be specific levels to progress the story. Now, I've never been a massive fan of that, and from the perspective of forcing the player to go out and look around for things and to do side quests and to meet new characters, I personally don't like that approach. For me, the way I like to tackle my games like this, like I did with God of War, is I want to smash the story out as quickly as possible, and then I want to focus on the side quests. I then want to focus on the other lore bits and whatever it might be. I don't want to have to go out and do these side quests and forcefully explore this world just because they want to try and prolong the game. That's the part that I didn't really like too much, and even to this day, level 34 is the ending level in order to essentially complete the game. I'm not level 34 yet. I did stop playing it for the last couple of days, so I haven't got there quite yet, but this is what I'm saying. I've been stopped from finishing that final mission because I'm not level 34, and I've got to go out and I've got to forcefully do these side quests to try and rank myself up. And look, as I said, this is probably just me. You probably watching this video have finished all of the side quests or explored a lot during the campaign, which means you're like level 40 when you finish the game, and that's absolutely fine and fair play. That might just be a me problem, and I'm completely aware of that. But from my perspective, with the amount of freedom the game offers, I would have expected a bit of freedom in the way that you can complete it as well, and not forcing me to do these side quests to try and prolong the story of the game out. Although if they didn't do this, the story of the game would probably take around 10 hours to complete because there's not really too much to it, so it probably makes sense as to why they've done that. Combat-wise, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. There wasn't really a whole lot of skill required to master the combat or anything like that. So it wasn't like God of War where you've got to time parry things or move out the way or use different weapons that you've got for different scenarios and different things like that. There's none of that really in this game, but that's absolutely fine. It doesn't need to be there. Dodging and blocking is pre-prompted to you when in combat as well, so you know when someone's gonna, you know when you need to press triangle, you know when you need to press circle to dodge out the way and stuff like that. But it does a lot of the work for you, and a lot of the combat itself is you being very trigger happy and spamming the wand and then using your special magical spells to cast on people like the dark magic or the ones you learn in Hogwarts and stuff like that. You've got some really cool upgrade points as well that you can use across the likes of stealth, also to upgrade some of your magic as well that you learn throughout dark magic or the ones you learn in Hogwarts, combat upgrades, and a lot more things like that as well. So there is some depth in there, and a game of this size and caliber needs to keep the players wanting to come out for more. So having these RPG elements and things that you can find and then also upgrade as well is a neat touch, and it needed it as well. So I'm glad they've added that in there. Now, the story. This is a part of the video where I'm going to put a bit more detail into telling you why the story lacked in some areas, but also why I thought it was very good in some areas. Ultimately, we're a lore and story channel, pretty much, so I want to focus on this area to showcase as to why I think this story could have been improved. And to do that, I want to compare the Hogwarts Legacy plot and story with the actual Harry Potter movie plot and story. Now, you don't have to have seen the movies to be able to relate to this. I'm going to do the explaining for you, so just hear me out here. So, in Hogwarts Legacy, we have the antagonist, which is Ranrock, and in the movies, we have Voldemort. Taking a step back and looking at Voldemort as a character as a whole, and then looking at Ranrock, which are you more scared of, and which one do you feel is the more of a villain? It's obviously Voldemort. For me, Ranrock didn't give me the same feeling. When I watched the movies, Voldemort was a character that was so bad that they wouldn't even say his name. He was literally known as the one who shall not be named. And then when we finally got a full reveal of him, being created and put together in a cauldron it's just so cool. in some form of like deserted horror location with mist all around, and it just looks really sick, really eerie, and it shows you that something isn't quite right about this guy. He suddenly fully forms and you're like, okay, shit, this guy is cold, no remorse, and it's the worst possible thing that could have happened to the wizarding world at that point. Him getting his full form and becoming as powerful as he is, having huge ties and relations to that of the main antagonist, Harry Potter, and both of their backstories linked together hand in hand, and Harry was the reason why he was in that state in the first place. And you have a reason from the very beginning to fear him and hate him, because one, all of the characters surrounding you hate him, they won't even say his damn name, and two, you've teleported to this location and this guy is thrown into a cauldron and then just comes out of nowhere and is apparently the most powerful dark wizard of all. You see what I'm getting at here? Ranrock, on the other hand, gives me absolutely no reason to really hate him at all, to fear him in any way at all, or to care about his motivations. The only time you hear about these motivations is later on into the story, and that's through a side quest and not even through the main campaign dialogue. For me, it was kind of forced, and I don't really like that. I felt there could have been way more opportunities through in the story for us to flesh out Ranrock's backstory, to flesh out Rookwood's backstory. Who the hell are we? Who is our character? What is the backstory of our character? We don't know. For me, I thought the story itself was fairly weak in terms of the plot. It was very generic, dark magic, 4 wizards that you need to complete 4 trials for to stop the baddie Ranrock from getting this dark magic. It's very, very generic, and I thought they could have done so much more with it, and then maybe in the future, DLC, sequels, the money opportunity they could have had. There's not, it just doesn't seem to be here. I would have loved Avalanche to have created a Voldemort 2.0, or someone of that caliber of Voldemort, someone that all of the characters hate. If you talk about them, you are immediately shunned for even saying the name of them, for someone that's so feared that if they are known to be coming back, if they're known to be near Hogwarts, whatever it might be, everyone is really scared. The worry on people's faces and their voices. This is the sort of thing that's going to get you engrossed and think, oh my god, this guy's pretty bad news. You don't get that with Ranrock. The only time you hear of Ranrock in the campaign is at the beginning in that newspaper, a couple of times throughout the campaign saying that he's bad news, but again, nobody knows what Ranrock wants, so nobody in the school is worried about what he's doing. This is for me why there was such a missed opportunity in this story and the plot. Nobody knew what Ranrock was doing until the very end, and even at that point, that's when all the wizards and all the teachers, witches, came out of nowhere and started helping, which I thought was really, really cool at the time. But reflecting on it, let's go to the Deathly Hallows ending scene and let's compare this. Within that cutscene, all of Voldemort's army pushed towards Hogwarts, and all of the teachers to protect Hogwarts and the students within all went outside and formed some form of force field around the entirety of the castle, and it was impenetrable until they just kept bombarding it with things, and then of course Voldemort used the Elder Wand to crack it at the very end. After that case, they all rushed in and there was a huge battle within Hogwarts. The parts of the castle were destroyed and things like that. Lives were lost during the battle because war is not a good thing, of course. But this is what I'm talking about. The stakes of that scenario were huge. We had to be on our A game. We had to seriously consider what was going to happen and the outcome of this. And that's what gets the player invested and the person invested watching it. What would happen if Ranrock got this power? Yes, he wants to make Goblinkind the most powerful of all, but we had no information as to what he wanted to do with it. Did he want to take over Hogwarts? Did he want to kill all the witches and wizards? These are important things that we didn't understand and were very clearly missed. Now, this isn't me saying the story was bad, because I don't think it was. I thought that it was fairly generic in a sense of the plot and the story in general, but overall, I really enjoyed playing through it. I thought the trials were really cool. The characters themselves were quite good, and I loved the voice acting from the likes of Ranrock. I thought the voice actor was very, very good. Honestly, I thought the character cast and the actors were very talented and that everyone did a very, very good job with it. I just thought the story and the writing could have been much better. But as I mentioned, these are just points that I picked up on. It doesn't mean I hate the game. It doesn't mean the game's a 1 out of 10. It's just things that I would have preferred to have seen. I thought the game for me was one of the best that I've played in a very, very long time. Even the way that it is right now, it would have just made it even better with those additional parts and maybe the story being just that little bit better. But ultimately, let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. So, what's the final verdict here? I think Hogwarts Legacy from a story perspective was a 7 out of 10. I liked most of the missions and the relationship you develop with some of the surrounding characters like Sebastian, Natty, Poppy and a couple of others as well. But I feel as though they played it very safe in Hogwarts Legacy. And Ramrock, although at times was quite cool and I loved his voice acting, he was a pretty flat character with not much of a reason for me to hate him or to not like him. In fact, I actually felt sorry for him from when I heard his backstory, which is the opposite of what they were going for. Overall though, from a story perspective, from a gameplay perspective, exploration, all that sort of stuff, value for money, what is my final verdict on Hogwarts Legacy? For me, it is a solid 9 out of 10. If the story was that little bit better, and the characters were that little bit better, I think that this would have been an easy 10 out of 10 for me. But there's just taking into account that the story I thought was very generic. I thought it was good, but just not as good as what it could have been. That is the reason why I'm giving it a 9 as opposed to a 10. But it's very, very close. It's probably more close to a 9.5 to be honest than a 9, but we'll stick to 9 for rounding it up. But that is my review of Hogwarts Legacy, everyone. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Leave a like if you have. It would be very much appreciated. Subscribe if you guys are brand new too. But plenty more content coming related to reviews, story explain videos, lore and story, that sort of stuff. Loads of it's coming on the channel, so make sure you stick around for that. But enjoy the rest of your day, everyone, and we'll see you all next time.